So, you want to build a Jonboat. You've been on YouTube for weeks. You spent days and days looking at all the different Jonboats on YouTube, looking at all the different ways to build them. And now you decided that it's your turn. Well, let's prepare you. You'll need beer, bug spray, and room for lots and lots of cardboard boxes, because they're going to be everywhere. This video is going to explain just the parts necessary to build the mechanical and electrical segment of the boat. Not the decks, not the mini console, not any of the carpeting or the cutting out, just the mechanicals and the electrical. So we're going to just do a front to back. This is a 1436 Tracker topper, welded. Got this at Bass Pro Shops. And pretty happy with pretty much everything about it. I've gone over it real well, checked all the welds. It's a really nice boat for the money. This boat cost around $1,800. The trailer was $1,200. Total out the door was right around $3,400 for the whole thing, with tax and my registrations and everything. So first of all, up front, you're going to need a navigation light. That's about 10 bucks on Amazon. They're cheap. We got us a Gigan light and combination headlight. You're going to need an anchor line. You're going to need at least 2 dock lines. And this boat has no cleats. These boats come with nothing. All it has is a plug to plug the hole in the back, and that is it. So we've chosen to go with a center console here, which is going to get built out of fiberglass. Very small console, just something real simple. So when you buy your motor, you're going to get a side control with all the associated wiring. You're going to get a wiring harness. And the thing to know about buying a small motor like that Suzuki 20 is you're going to have a harness that's capable of doing a lot of different stuff with a lot of different Suzuki engines, so there's going to be a lot of plugs left over. So when you get your harness and you pull it out, don't be surprised if there's 2 or 3, maybe 4 plugs that are just not going to be used. Now what I did was, instead of opting for a typical steering wheel in a small boat like this, the console is going to be right about here, and I'm going to sit on a cooler right about there where that snake is. So I got a little 11-inch wheel with the knob already on it, and instead of going with cable steering, which on a boat like this, it's a short run, there's not a lot of places to hide it, the cable can't be bent or turned or twisted, so we just went with a hydraulic steering. It was about $290 on Amazon for the Viver. You're going to need a switch plate. I've got 2 of these, but that's what they look like. All your connections are on the back. You run power into that, and then power goes out to wherever you want it. I'm probably going to need 2 because I've got 4 different things I want to run, so you'll have 2 extra spaces if you guys want to add some LED lights or courtesy lights or any of that stuff. Most of you are going to fish, so you're going to need some sort of rod holders. I got these on Amazon. They're about 20 bucks for the pair. It was a really good deal. So you are going to need a battery box to hold your battery, and this one is vented. You'll see the vent in the top, see the light through it. So when you put your battery in there, it'll keep it from getting wet, but not from rain. So we're going to probably cut out this seat or that seat when we do the steering console and mount the battery and the box in there, and then there'll be another battery back here specifically just for the motor. I use lithium batteries. These are Power Queens, very common. I got these both for about $400. Your wiring's all going to want to go into a split loom that you can zip tie shut once you get all your wires in it. Run it in these grooves underneath whatever deck or flooring you do. You'll just have to get creative. So since I have the 2 lithium batteries that are going to be in here, I bought a lithium battery maintainer charger, which will always be in the boat. Got a couple rolls of 12 and 14 gauge wire. I'm just putting these fittings in particular out here just so you see that you're going to need a lot of fittings. You're going to need a lot of crimp connectors, you're going to need a lot of spades, a lot of heat shrink tubing. This is just a representative of a couple of different kinds. Trust me, you'll need more. This is important. So up front, we're going to have a separate battery to run our accessories and everything but the motor. This is going to come from that battery. You're going to power this, and then this is going to provide power to your switches and all of your accessories. So you're going to come out of this. You're going to put a fuse in line, probably 20 amp will do. Then you're going to power your switch panel with the power right here coming in. Then out of each of your accessories going to lights, live well, whatever else you're going to use, you're going to want to add another one of these in each line. Come out of here, into this, out of this, to the accessory. The reason I don't use fuse blocks is because fuse blocks deteriorate, they crack, they corrode, the terminals come loose, and by using a fuse panel, unless you spend 200 bucks on a really high-end one that's super nice, and you go with one of those cheap Amazon ones that are like 20, 30, 40, maybe even 50 or 60 bucks, they all suck. They're all really crap, and they all will fail a lot of times within a year. These are good. They're all pre-wired. You know, you can even wrap this all with tape. You know, do whatever you want to do to keep the water off of it. Spray a lot of goop on there, like some dielectric grease. That's not a bad idea. And then of each switch going to your accessories, you'll have a separate fuse in a waterproof container. And when you make these connections, you're going to cut this. It'll be in and out. When you make these connections, you're going to heat shrink it where it comes out of here. You're going to heat shrink it where it goes into this panel. And then these are going to come out and go. And you want to make sure you heat shrink everything. And if you splice this into a wire, where this comes out and goes to a wire, you want to solder that. Anything that you can solder, don't use a crimp, solder it and heat shrink it. If you use good quality marine crimps like these, you'll be okay. But when you go from wire to wire, you wrap them really tightly, you solder them, and you heat shrink them, and even do double heat shrink. Heat shrink is cheap. Breaking down on the water is not. So the Beaver system comes with hydraulic hoses, which are quite a bit more flexible than a steering cable. And you can kind of sneak them around and get them underneath things so they won't be in the way. And then this steering unit right here, where your steering cable would ordinarily attach to the motor, it mounts on here, and then using this rod that attaches there, it's going to actually slide the whole motor left to right using this hydraulic ram. So not only is that going to give you effortless steering, you won't even know that you're steering, it'll also prevent feedback from the motor when you punch it. To get on a plane, your steering wheel won't pull one way or another. Because in a boat like this, you're not going to do a no feedback system, which sometimes requires 2 cables. So hydraulic, I think, was the way to go. The decent quality steering cable and helm was $165 on Amazon. This was $290, and you know, with the cable and the helm and the steering wheel, it came to around $220. So we saved about 70 bucks if we had gone with this cable steering, but we would have had a much more visible steering, and it wouldn't have been able to make some of these turns I'm going to have to make. So anytime you buy hydraulic steering, you got to get power steering fluid, and I highly recommend quality fluid. You'll never need to change it. This Suzuki 20 came with a 3-gallon fuel tank, which of course will be going up front somewhere. So we'll be running our fuel line along the side, and under their front deck that we're going to build up there, the fuel tank will go. You do not want to put your batteries and your fuel tank in the same compartment. Let me repeat. Do not put your batteries and your fuel tank and lines and bulb in the same compartment, unless you have to. If you have to do it, you can do it. Okay, over here we've got a set of shift cables. Now these are 13 feet, and what you need to do is measure the boat when you get it. Don't order them ahead of time, because they're gonna have to come from here, a little bit of a loop, over here, out of a hole right here, running along this groove, back through here, and then they're gonna have to kind of come up and do like a little snaky snake into these holes right here. So I needed 2 feet, plus 8 feet, plus 3 feet. The extra foot back here gives me room to make a little loop. And I may bring these out down here so they come out and go up into the motor. Now this motor came from Online Outboards. It didn't come from Bass Pro. Not that Bass Pro doesn't sell good motors. It has power trim and tilt, electric start and pull start. It's a 15-inch shaft with a standard prop. I don't know what kind of speed I'm going to get out of this thing or what it's going to do, but what's cool is this has a tilt trim button on the outside, so you don't have to go up to the steering console to operate the trim and tilt if you're back here like in the water and you want to tilt it up sitting on the sandbar. And basically the way that the Suzuki mounts, it has 2 screw mounts which you clamp down, and then you put 2 bolts down here, one on each side, or you can put them here, and that basically holds the bottom of the motor against the transom while these guys up here clamp the top. So these you want to make sure they're tight, and once they're tight they're not going to come loose because these are a kind of a tight fit thread, so you don't have to worry about them wobbling loose. Got your fuel connection here, which is going to just kind of loop carefully down and go through here, underneath all this, through this groove, and through here, come back in through here, and under this deck that's going to be up here, the fuel tank will be right in the middle. So that'll be nice because I'm going to get a 6-gallon tank, and that'll give it about 30 pounds of fuel up here that'll balance out the boat. So basically that's about all the parts you're going to need as far as the mechanical and electrical part of your boat when you're building it. Like I said, in addition to some cables, you know, in addition to some crimp connectors and some heat shrink tubing, you know, that's about it. When you do your battery cables, you don't have to buy battery cables. You don't really need to do that if you're crafty, because all you got to do is buy a crimping kit on Amazon for about 30 bucks. Comes with this bad boy, a big heavy pair of cutters, and then you buy the lugs. And what I do is I crimp them on there. I buy marine cable and make my battery cables that way, heat shrink them, but I also solder the lug onto the wire after it's been crimped, which you can do with a torch. Just use a mini torch and some low temperature solder, and that just gives it a, you know, a little bit better connection. So that is where we're at, and you'll see over there coming out of the motor is about as far as the battery cables go for the motor. So that battery is going to go under this deck, and the switch will be there, and that will be able to complete the electrical and mechanical part of this boat. Because you want to do this right, because the reason you're building your own Jonboat isn't because the ones that you can buy put together out there are crap, but a lot of times they are. A lot of times they cut corners. A lot of times they do things because they know you can't see under the decks and you can't see behind panels, and you start having problems in a couple of years because they don't use the right connectors, or they just have someone who is having a crappy day putting your boat together. So this way, you know, you can do it slowly in your own yard and save a lot of money. So this boat complete, I'm aiming for around $8,000 to $8,500, depending on, you know, what I got to add to it to make it right. I've already got a depth finder. I already had the batteries, but other than that, pretty much everything else is new. So we're looking at $8,000. This boat rigged, if you were to buy this rigged with a 20 horsepower motor with power tilt and no tiller, that's the difference. You're looking at about probably $12,000 to $13,000. So we're coming in $4,000 to $5,000 under that price by doing it ourselves. And we've got a motor that isn't a tiller, has power tilt, And we have hydraulic steering instead of cable steering. And that, if you've ever had hydraulic steering, you'll never go back to cable steering. Trust me. So follow along. This is going to be a series. I'll probably do about, I don't know, 8 to 10 videos, breaking it up into pieces, so it's easy to follow and you can jump to different parts that you want. If there's something you don't understand, you can go to that video and watch it. And if you know how to do the stuff that's in the other videos, you can just ignore them. But I hope you guys come along with us. We've been fishing out of a canoe. I've got over 300 videos of various cooking and fishing and boating. And around here, the water's a little treacherous and there's lots of gators. So I thought it was a smart idea to get something that was a little bit safer for the river. So come with us and enjoy your time on the water and learn a few things. Save a lot of money. Peace.